I'm so scared right now, and my friends and I just don't know what to do. I've never felt so vulnerable before in my life. If you're unfamiliar with it, Snapchat is an app that people can download for free on their phones. The basic point of Snapchat is to share pictures and videos with your friends to let them know what's going on in your life. And with the new Snap Map feature, it's even easier to see what they're doing. I don't use Snapchat that much myself, but I do have it installed on my phone just to see what's going on with my friends, as well as to send the occasional snap to some of my close friends of what I'm eating or whatever. I'll also occasionally receive snaps from my friends as well. You know, just the typical Snapchat stuff. Anyways, it was just last week when I received some pretty weird Snapchats from an unknown sender. It was a Wednesday night, and I was in my room studying for a midterm I had that week. To give you the full context as to why these snaps weirded me out so much, I have to let you know a little bit about myself. I'm currently a college student in my junior year, and I live alone in an apartment close to campus. It's within walking distance of my school, which is nice, as I don't have to go through the trouble of finding parking or owning a car while dealing with my studies. The cost of living in my city is pretty low, and I value my privacy a lot and hate living with roommates. I did that in my freshman year of college, and I'll never do it again, so this is really why I choose to live alone. Many of my friends also either lived on campus or in apartments nearby, so I was never lacking for company. The apartment itself isn't very large. It's small, but cozy at the same time, and it has everything a college student living on his own could ask for. A kitchen, a bathroom, a living room, and 2 small but comfortable bedrooms. I'm a pretty big geek, so most of my apartment is filled with various superhero and video game merchandise that I've collected over the years. One piece of merch I was particularly proud of was my Superman figure that I had purchased from a comic book shop for only $30. It was a steal, and I've had it in my dresser in my room ever since. And basically, to sum things up, I'm a college student who lives alone in a pretty small apartment. It's simple as that. So back to the main topic at hand. Like I said, it was a Wednesday night and I was in my room studying when I received a notification on my phone. Opening it up, I realized that I had gotten 3 snaps on Snapchat. However, what was weird about these snaps were that they were from an unknown sender. On Snapchat, I mainly snap with 3 of my friends who were avid Snapchat users, and by now I had practically memorized what their usernames were. This username was entirely new to me, which made me pretty curious, honestly. I've heard stories about people who have gotten weird snaps from strangers before, but it had never happened to me until now. I should have just deleted them and blocked the unknown user right then and there, but curiosity got the better of me. I regret ever opening those snaps. Looking back, I probably should have taken a few screenshots of these apps for a form of evidence, but the idea never crossed my mind at the time. The first snap I received was strange, but nothing too out of the ordinary. It was a picture of a lawn of grass, but it was too close up to see where this lawn was. The second snap was where things started to get really strange. It was a video, and the entire screen was black, as if the person recording the snap was covering his camera with his hand. However, that really wasn't the weird part. The weird part was the weird whispering I heard. I don't know how to quite explain it, but it sounded like he was putting his mouth really close to the microphone and whispering in a convoluted, jumbled mess. The third snap sent chills down my spine. It was a snap of a door, but not just any door. It was the front door of the apartment complex that I live in, the one where everybody walks into on the way to their rooms. Whoever was sending me these snaps, he was in the nearby vicinity. After I was done viewing the snaps, I immediately sent a message to the person using Snapchat's messaging feature. I simply said, "Who are you?" A few seconds after sending the message, I could see that he had opened it. Whoever he was, he'd obviously been waiting for a response from me. I held my breath and waited a few seconds for this mysterious person to respond back, but they never did. After waiting for about 5 minutes, I simply closed the app and put my phone down. At the time, I remember I simply had no idea what to do. I looked out of my window and didn't see anything out of the ordinary or any weird figure standing out on the street below. Truth be told, at the time, my midterm was the main thing on my mind, so after closing everything down, I went back to studying. I didn't receive any more weird snaps from the mysterious sender, and the event eventually left my mind, as I was pretty busy from all the homework and studying I had for my midterm, so I didn't really have a lot of time to contemplate this whole situation. It wasn't until last night, Monday night, that I received more snaps. These ones were the ones that truly began to make me panic. I was reading my textbook for my English class when I suddenly received 2 notifications from Snapchat. I had received 2 snaps once again from the mysterious person that had snapped me a week ago. Again, looking back, I wish I would have taken screenshots for these, but at the time it didn't even cross my mind. I continue to kick myself about this even now. The first snap was eerily similar to the one with the whispering I had received last week. It was pretty much the same thing, except the whispering sounded a lot faster and more excited, I guess you could say. The second snap was one that truly frightened me. This snap made me realize that something was very, very wrong, and whoever was sending these snaps was a bigger threat than I originally anticipated. At first, when I looked at the snap, it took a few moments for me to really realize what I was looking at. It was a picture of a door frame with the person taking a snap pointing his phone at it from the darkness of the hallway. Light was streaming from the room that the door frame led to, and I could make out a few pieces of furniture, including a bed, a dresser, and a Superman figure on top of the dresser. That's when I realized I was looking at a picture of my own room. I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand up as I began to realize what was going on. I vaguely remembered that I tend to leave the door in my room open. I slowly turned around, half expecting someone to be standing in my doorway staring right at me. But there was no one there. I slowly rose from my chair and began inching towards the doorway. Looking out into the rest of my apartment, I saw that there was no one there. Thank God. I spent the next hour or so searching my apartment for any signs of intrusion, but there was nothing. I suddenly felt my phone vibrate in my hand, which I had realized I had been holding on to the entire time. I had received another snap from the mysterious sender. It was a video again. With my fingers shaking, I opened the snap to yet another obscured video with the whispering in the background. This time, the whispering was very loud and filled my entire apartment with the noise. I didn't sleep at all that night. I sat on my bed, every light on in my apartment, and a kitchen knife in hand, with my phone in the other. But nothing outside of the ordinary occurred. If anyone has any advice on what I should do, please let me know. It's Tuesday now, and I haven't received another snap, and nothing out of the ordinary has happened since Monday. I have no idea how this person may have gotten my Snapchat, and if that last snap was really taken from inside my apartment, it means that he could potentially have a way into my home. I still can't figure out who this would possibly be though. I keep the key to my apartment on me at all times, and the extra spare key is always in the desk where I keep it. I told one of my close friends about this, and he told me that I could live with him for a few days just in case this person actually does return. But I just don't know. Again, any advice is welcome, and I just really want to get to the bottom of this. When I was in college, I loved to write movie analysis. My favorite movie was the 2001 A Space Odyssey. I have written and published a few of my entries in a couple of small-time film magazines, and I always saw it as a nice hobby and a great way to practice my skills since it fit well with my college major. I was quite devoted to this hobby, and I spent a decent amount of time on it as well. I eventually made my own website revolving around it, and I really enjoyed it. I still have this website, and I sell a few DVDs and have a number of articles and chapters on my website. The main reason people know me is because I've had a handful of semi-viral videos analyzing movies like The Thing and The Shining. Now, this is where the story gets a little creepy. I used to get hundreds of comments each and every day to my website and YouTube channel. I always try to read every comment and respond with a thorough answer as much as possible. I was still in college for only a few months, and I got a private message on YouTube from the username Green Ramen. Yeah, this kind of reminded me of the good days of YouTube when usernames didn't really make much sense, but anyhow, the first comment read, "Hello there. I've recently been viewing your videos and I really enjoy them. I would love to discuss my different views on your topics. How about we meet at the local liquor bar and get to know each other?" The address was only a few blocks from the townhouse me and my friends bought during our sophomore year. I've always used a proxy since I bought this computer, and I never sent any personal information that could lead to my location. At first I was pretty spooked by this, and after a few minutes I came to the obvious conclusion that it was a prank by one of my friends. I mean, of course, why not? But I started to get more messages from this person, and it got pretty bad quickly. I opened a few and they were all spam, obviously stuffed full of viruses. I'm incredibly freaked out telling this. It's about 2 a.m. and all my friends are sleeping. While they are pranksters, I am nearly certain they wouldn't do something like this. Worried, I decided to wake them up. They all seemed to have no idea what was going on, and when I told them what was happening, none of them had a snicker or anything of that type. In fact, all of them seemed quite worried and actually thought I was pulling their leg. After showing them the flood of emails, they started to say, "Check your Snapchat." I was quite puzzled by this and knew no one besides my friends who would do something like this. When I opened the app, I had over 30 new messages sent from the person of the same name, Green Ramen. That wasn't the frightening part though. All of the photos were of the house where we were time-stamped only a few minutes ago. As my friends and I looked at these pictures, we could tell that they kept getting closer and closer to the windows where we were. They then proceeded to show me sitting at my computer while I was looking through all the emails. All of our stomachs sank. Then the absolute worst photo came in. It was all in real time of us looking at the photos currently, with the caption, "Please open the door for me." We all scrambled out back to the driveway to get in my Prius. I slammed on the gas, which is incredibly anticlimactic for a Prius to be honest, but one of my friends in the back seat started to phone the police. I was going about 60 miles per hour in a 35 mile per hour zone, speeding out into somewhat of a crowded highway. I got one final Snapchat. It was a side photo of our car on the highway with the caption, "You can't escape me that easily." I told my friend that I would meet the police that would be at a diner a mile away in a public place. I turned my phone off and met them only a few minutes later. The police confiscated my phone and computer to try to trace the IP address. Both of them registered a cleverly hidden proxy. I never saw any trace of that person and moved out of my house after the incident. I hope he never comes back or messes with me again. That night was easily the scariest moment of my life. Snapchat is a fun little app where people can take selfies and send them to their friends. I use Snapchat pretty much every single day to send pictures of myself doing stupid things to my friends, and they would send pictures of themselves back. That was up until that one afternoon. I had just returned home after a long day at school, made even longer by my friend's absence due to his little brother's funeral. So I decided to recline on the sofa and procrastinate on my iPad for a while. As I usually did, my procrastination took the form of messing around on Snapchat. I had a few unopened snaps, several of them from my friend who had been absent that day. I opened them. Each of them was a selfie of him in his room after the funeral. He looked like shit. I guess he just wanted sympathy from the many girls he was looking to hook up with. So I sent him a picture of me with a message attached saying, "Chin up, man." It wasn't long until he replied. He just replied with a somber image of himself and a simple message saying, "Thanks." But something caught my eye for the briefest second. A pair of eyes sunken and dead, peering out of his closet. I was a little shaken by this, as I could not be sure that what I saw was actually what I saw. I immediately replied, "Are you alright, man?" with a picture of me trying not to look freaked out. I waited anxiously for his reply. When I received a notification for a new Snapchat, I was slightly nervous about opening it. I was worried about what I'd see. I was worried about what was waiting for me. But curiosity got the best of me. I opened the message. Another picture of my friend and a simple message saying, "Yeah." At this point, my iPad froze. Leaving the message for my friend on the screen, I couldn't do anything. The home button didn't work, nor did the lock button. I was left with the image of my friend staring back at me. This gave me a chance to view the picture with more depth. After close inspection, I saw nothing out of order. No eyes in the closet, and in fact, his closet door was closed. I was about to hook up my iPad on my computer to see if I could unfreeze it, when I noticed that my closet door was open. It was a Saturday night and it was starting to get relatively late. I was bored out of my mind watching Netflix and I needed to find something to do. I had the brilliant idea of going on Omegle, and of course this led to a lot of disappointment. I was about to go find another distraction when I finally found a normal match on Omegle. It was a dark room with a cute looking young woman sitting in front of her webcam. I figured it was fake and it was going to be a screamer or some sort of prank. After an awkward silence, I was about to click next when she said, "Hello?" Immediately following that was the text, "Hit me up on Snapchat. My username's Sasha247. I pulled out my phone and added her just for the heck of it. Right as I added her, she disconnected the call. I sent a snap saying, "What's up? I was just on Omegle," and proceeded to wait. It was around 1:30 in the morning now, and I didn't really hear anything back, so I just went back to watching Netflix. At 2 a.m. I finally got a reply, and it was her. It was a picture of her driving her car, followed by the text, "On my way." I simply responded with, "Be safe, LOL," and then I fell asleep. The next day I woke to my phone and what I discovered was pure horror. Opening one snap at a time, the first was of her just driving, a little weird but I didn't think much of it. Then things started to get real. The next snap was of her driving, but it had her at a stoplight, and at the stoplight I noticed a Walmart next door to a gym. That very same Walmart and gym were just a few miles away from my house. At this point I was really afraid and I wanted to get to the bottom of this, but at the same time I didn't really know what to do. I opened another snap of her entering my neighborhood, accompanied with the text, "Get ready." The final snap that I received from her was a 10-second video of her filming my house. That was the last snap I received, and I really hope I don't receive any more. This all happened to me last night, and I've already notified the police. I really hope this is just some sort of practical joke and this person will leave me alone. I'll keep you guys updated if anything happens in the future, but I really hope I won't have to. It was a late Friday night. Me and my parents joined together in the living room to have what we call family bonding, meaning sitting and doing our own thing in the same room. I sat at the corner of the couch scrolling through social media and through my Reddit, while Dad laid back in his recliner half asleep. A beer can sat on the box next to him and I could smell the bitter aroma of alcohol, which almost made me gag. My mom seated on the other end of the couch, just knitting away, making another scarf for her craft sales she always liked doing. It was a rather dull night since there was nothing good on television and we all resorted to watching the news as some form of background noise. I jumped as the news went to a commercial with a loud and upbeat tune, which almost felt too happy. The commercial began with a voice that said,
"Tired of using knives and blades that just won't cut, leaving you stressed."
What was strange in the voice was that it sounded deep and somewhat distorted. Even more, the people using the knives shown in the video all wore what looked like black bags over their faces, as they stumbled trying to slice the tomato or carrot that was in front of them. I lowered my phone slowly as I started to stare at the strange infomercial that I'd never seen before. I looked at my mom, whose expression matched my own, as she stared at the bright television screen. I nudged my dad, who grunted as he slowly opened his eyes. As he came to it, his face soon turned to the same confused gaze that me and my mother shared. A man dressed in a red polo shirt and black pants stepped into the camera view. His face was covered in some odd mask. It had a mustache and dark empty eyes that made my stomach churn as he spoke in his deep voice.
I'm here today to show you the amazing power of the cereal blades,
he said in a cheerful voice as he held up what looked like a large cake knife in one hand and a butcher's knife in the other. The camera slowly panned as he trotted off to the right of the screen, showing the same 5 bag-headed people all kneeling in a row. Each had their hands tied behind their back, and I assumed their feet as well because they weren't able to move. I felt my breath get heavy as I quickly tried to change the channel before we could see anything. It was in vain though, for no matter how many times I hit the channel button, that same commercial would appear. He walked up to the first hooded victim, holding the cake knife in his hands, and threw off the bag. My eyes widened when I saw the horrified look on 14-year-old Bobby Richards' face. Tears stained on his cheek as I heard his muffled cries through the white fabric stuffed in his mouth. Bobby was a classmate of mine, and we also went to the same church. He was a very polite, Christian boy who had straight A's in school. There was even talk of him possibly making it into a big Christian college upstate. My mom gasped at the sight as my dad sat wide-eyed on the edge of his seat. I could see the reflective glow of his sweaty forehead as he stared at the screen. We could hear sirens outside of our house as dozens of cops buzzed past our house, probably on the look for this psycho. A number slowly appeared on the screen as the masked lunatic said,
Call now if you'd like to order this amazing kitchen knife, but time is limited, so call now.
A timer appeared on the screen as it began to count down. 59, 58, 57, 56. My heart raced as the clock slowly counted down, watching as he drew the knife closer to the boy's neck as Bobby began to sob. The clock had reached 29 when there was a ring on the commercial.
Looks like we have a buyer,
he said in glee as he let go of Bobby. Bobby was then dragged off screen and the man stepped up to the next victim. He removed the bag to reveal 15-year-old Jenna Reynolds, the student body president of my school. I could feel a cold sweat on the back of my neck as he walked up to her with a steak knife. Its sharp ends twinkled as he placed it against her face. The same number appeared as he looked up to the camera.
This is a limited item, so call in the next 20 seconds to order this amazing steak fork,
he announces as the clock starts to count down from 20. The anticipation was agonizing as I watched the clock slowly drop. I couldn't understand why nobody was calling. Her parents weren't too crazy with technology, but I was sure they had a phone, so why weren't they calling to save their daughter? I raised my phone ready to dial as my mom snatched it out of my hands. Are you nuts? She shouts at me angrily. She isn't worth risking our own family's lives. I was horrified to hear this come from my own mother's mouth. A woman who was known for being so caring to others was abandoning someone whose life was in danger. Seeing her snap like this almost felt unreal. There was a loud buzz as the clock reached 0.
No buyers? Why don't I show you how amazingly this thing works? Maybe then you'll change your mind and buy it after I show you what it can do.
He said this as he slowly dug the steak knife into the side of Jenna's face. Her shrieks of pain chilled me to the bone as the fork dug deeper and deeper into her skull. She squirmed trying to fight the sharp edges piercing her flesh as waves of blood rushed down the side of her face. Then, she went still. Her beautiful blue eyes rolled back in her head until there was nothing but white. The man removed the fork from the side of her head as a squirt of blood splashed onto the floor. She hit the hard white tile floor with a thud, and she was motionless and limp. My father ran to the kitchen, vomiting into the sink. My mother was sobbing into her hands, trying to hide the horror that was before her, and I was just frozen in shock at what I just witnessed. It had to be some kind of nightmare, I thought, There was no way this was real. The man took a rag and slowly wiped the blood from the tool as he looked to the camera.
Remember folks, these can be ordered again at the end of the commercial, so if you are finally convinced you want this product, just give us a call.
He said this as he stepped towards the third victim.
Our next tool is this marvelous steak knife. See how evenly lined the teeth are, giving you a nice, clean cut.
I swallowed hard at his words, and the next person's hood was removed. It was 16-year-old Andrew Jacobs. He had gotten held back a year after not coming to school for almost half the year after his mom and dad died in a car accident. He was a quiet guy and didn't really have many friends. He kind of kept to himself, even when his parents were alive. He would often sit in the corner of the room and doodle while watching videos on his phone of like anime or something. When he did talk, it was normally about anime or the things he drew and what they were about. I remember once I sat with him at lunch and the whole period he talked about this world that he made up for himself and the story that takes place in it. He was really a nice kid, but I think just people misunderstood him. The look on Andrew's face filled me with tears. His expression was dead and gloomy, like he had already given up hope. I could feel his sorrow as he stared at the floor. The man rubbed the serrated teeth on the knife over his fingers.
This item is very limited, only a few in stock. So call in the next 10 seconds to get your chance of claiming one of these beauties.
He said this while holding the long knife between his hands as the clock started. I felt sick to my stomach knowing that he was a goner. The clock reached 0 and the man sighed.
Once again, let me show you how amazingly clean this thing cuts.
He grabbed Andrew by the hair, leaning his head back. He slowly took the knife as the ocean of red blood poured down Andrew's neck as he slowly moved the blade back and forth, back and forth. The blade slowly ate away at the flesh of his neck. The floor then turned to a crimson red before him and the last piece of flesh detached from the body. The headless body fell into the puddle of blood as the puddle grew beneath it.
Now just look at that clean cut, folks,
he said as he shows off the dismembered head, still dripping with blood. Andrew's soulless gaze just staring right back at me. I immediately vomited on the floor. The grotesque sight was just too much for my stomach to handle. My mom's face was just pale as a ghost. The man walked to the fourth person and whipped off their hood. Kneeling there with an angry look on his face was Trevor Jackson, the quarterback for the high school football team. He was always known to be a tough guy, but from the stains on his cheeks you could tell that he had been crying. Trevor was a senior and an honor student, and a lot of guys in my grade looked up to him, me being one of them. He was an excellent role model who always helped those in need. He did what he thought was right. A lot of people from other schools would harass him, calling him a goody two-shoes, but he didn't care. He was one of the most popular guys in school and in our town. The salesman held up the large butcher's knife in his hand, like he was ready to slaughter a pig to be hung. The number once again appeared and a timer was set for 10 seconds. In no more than 3 seconds, the phone rang and Trevor was taken off screen. The masked lunatic salesman slowly walked up to the final victim. My heart felt like it was going to burst from my chest as he slowly removed the last hood. My heart sank as I saw the face of a 15-year-old named Julia Myers. I always had a crush on Julia. Ever since preschool, I had found her absolutely beautiful. She was so kind with a gentle voice that would just soothe the heart of any savage beast. I'd always wanted to tell her how I felt, but I could just never get the words to come out. Sometimes I wondered if she even knew I existed, since it always felt like she could just see right through me. The salesman crept up behind her as the camera zoomed out to reveal a set of kitchen knives dangling above her head, like a modern-day guillotine.
Our last offer is a very special set of our best kitchen knives, which will only be available for the next 5 seconds. So call now and don't miss your chance to buy this rare set.
The timer started and I panicked as I pushed my mom out of the way and dialed the number. My mom screamed as the phone rang on the TV. The timer stopped just before 1 second and a voice on the other line said,
"We are coming."
I hung up the phone, my body shaking like a leaf. My mother's face was pale with a ghostly look on it. I don't know what happened to the other callers. I don't know what happened to the other victims. Heck, I don't even know what's gonna happen to me. I couldn't understand this man's motives, and I don't want to. But whatever you do, please, don't buy from cereal blades.